Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, brothers.
Walaikum salam wa
Walaikum salam.
rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
How you guys doing?
Alhamdulillah, we're good. Yeah, thanks. How about yourself?
Yeah, not bad, man. Not bad. Yourself, JK, how you doing?
Yeah, we're good. Alhamdulillah. Yeah, we've already had a chat, me and Imran. I think you invited us early, and then you seem to have chipped. But nah,
Yeah,
it seems all right.
to be honest with you, I think for some reason it was scheduled for 8,
Yeah,
but it sort of started off a few minutes before, so I cancelled it on my side. I didn't know
all right. Fair.
whether. So hopefully, let's hope the recording starts from now. But yeah, alhamdulillah, all good my side. Just been busy. Yesterday and today, to be honest with you, went to a janaza yesterday, a
Mhm.
local janaza of a brother who passed away, 50, and today I went to a janaza out
Alhamdulillah.
of town for one of my relatives actually, who passed away. I think he was about 34,
Oh, subhanallah.
and
Mhm. Very,
and
very young.
it was kind of mad because he was living out of town by himself. He was a teacher, and
Mm.
basically, I think he might have had like a heart attack or something whilst he's in the bath. So
Mm.
they sort of found him a few days later, and
Mm.
yeah, man,
Was it totally unexpected?
yeah, it was 30 somewhat years old. So it was just a
Mm.
reminder, like the Imam of the mosque, he said that.
Mm.
It's a reminder, especially when it's youth. When someone old passes away, it's one of those things that you just
Yeah,
think is part of the process. But when you get someone who's young, it should be seen as a bit of a sign that it don't really matter old or young. When your time's up, it's up. Should be a sign. You know what I mean?
yeah, exactly.
But yeah, other than that, alhamdulillah, everything has been good. Um, there's a comment and stuff. Should we play it before we start? What do you think?
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
ready. That's good. Yeah.
maybe go
Uh,
for it.
all right, let's see. Let's see what can be said here. All right.
Assalamu alaikum. Brother, add me in, please. I have a quick question. It's a very stupid question, but I just want to ask, please.
Okay. We've got a bit of an agenda, to be honest with you, bro. We need to get through. If you can sort of like hold on towards the end, or even just drop it whilst you're here, because there's a few stories. Because what we normally do on this show is we go over some issues that have occurred in the past couple of weeks that concern Muslims. So we've got a bit of an agenda to get through. So
Yeah.
what I would
I
say is
think I
either
think
drop
if,
us a
if
message.
the brother just asked the question and the like the way he just did the audio there, I think I'm sure we can talk about the question. If you
Exactly,
just
yeah,
ask it like
exactly.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, and by the end, if we get through it, and at the end, if the brother's still around, then definitely we can have a chat. But I can see that there's another comment. Let's just see before we start. Let's just see if the brother maybe asked this question. Yes.
So I have to hang around. No, that's fine then, bro. No problem, brother. Enjoy your show, Jazakallah.
If he's in a rush, I think we should ask. Let him ask the question, then we'll move on. I think. If you want.
Yeah, no, but yeah, he could have. I mean, the option's there, isn't it? The option's there. But
Hmm.
if he wants to try adding himself again, then we can probably entertain it, inshallah. But let's kick
Yeah.
on anyway, because as you know, last week we didn't have one of these shows, and the reason was because of the podcast we recorded on 9/11, which was it was a really good podcast, and I'd advise encourage everyone to check that podcast out. JK was on. No, actually, JK, you weren't on it, were you?
No, I wasn't on it. No.
Yeah, but it was a really good podcast, so definitely check that out. So today, there's a couple of stories which I want to go through, which are maybe over a week old, shall I say? But because we didn't have one last week, we're going to go through it today. And I think these stories, we're trying to do touch on events that maybe you don't catch in the mainstream news, just to sort of make everyone aware. So the first one is a story that was published by Anadolu Agency. I think it's a Turkish news website, And their headline to their report was Top French Court Accuses Cement Giant Lafarge of Financing Terrorism. So it was quite an interesting, it was actually quite an interesting story, because what it said was that there's a court case going on, and the court said that this company, Lafarge, which I think is either the biggest or the second biggest cement company in the world, French cement company, right? And they said that this company should face investigation on charges of complicity in crimes against humanity for financing Daesh, ISIS. So yeah, definitely you heard right there. They're being accused of financing ISIS. And what it said is that the French cement firm suspected of paying nearly 13 million euros to ISIS and other militants. Now, the thing is you might wonder, why are they financing them? What they were doing was, this company was paying millions to what they call jihadists to keep their factories open in Syria. So this is kind of crazy. Now, someone may argue, well, actually, you know what? It's not really a big deal, because these are capitalists, and we know that capitalists, they'll do anything to sort of like secure their interests and you know, their assets. But but you have to listen to the next bit, which is that the actual French intelligence were aware of this cement company financing Daesh. So what this agency, Anadolu agency, they've got documents which show that the cement giant told the French intelligence agencies about its ties with Daesh, with ISIS, and other groups. So, I mean, there's more to say, which I'm sure we'll get out. But basically, you know, one could actually say here that the French state was actually aware, actually not even aware, was even complicit in funding militant groups who they claim are terrorists in Syria, Iraq, and places like this. This is, I mean, sort of stuff which I'm not surprised is not on the mainstream news. But what are your thoughts on this, brothers? What are your thoughts on this story?
Yeah, like you said, this story went under the radar massively, and I think even though, you know, we haven't had a talk like this in a week, it's a very important one, because the mainstream media really just didn't talk about it. So I think you had one French newspaper report on it, and then you had the Anadolu agency and some of the Turkish media that have really, to be fair, Turkish media do tend to report some of this stuff because of the kind of position in the world today, you know, kind of a bit of hostility towards the West. And I think it is very important because, as you're saying, it's not only, I think it's much broader than just this incident of Lafarge. So, yes, Lafarge are basically being accused of complicity and also financing ISIS in Syria. And essentially, they knew they were doing it. It wasn't like it was being done through third parties. They knew they had contact with ISIS. And when the French intelligence found out, nothing happened, as in they were aware of it. And not only that, they had people that were gathering intelligence through Lafarge. So they had a person called, I don't know how you pronounce his name, but I think it's like a German kind of name. But the way I'm saying it is like, his name's Wareness, something Wareness.
Okay.
He was essentially arrested in France in 2018 under charges of financing terrorism for Lafarge. And his role basically was to be the middleman and speak to these militant groups, including ISIS. And he wrote in his memoir about his time working for this company. He detailed how the company paid taxes to ISIS and negotiated with the group in addition to other Al-Qaeda groups. And the funny thing is that his successor, and he was a part of an intelligence agency anyway, awareness, and his successor, Ahmed al-Jaludi, was also an intelligence agent for the Jordanian government. And he basically used his position, and his position was basically risk manager, but that was just the kind of on paper his position for the company, but his broader position was intelligence agent, right, for the Jordanian government. And he basically was required to get intelligence from ISIS and information from ISIS. So this is broader than just capitalism. Yes, you're absolutely right that these companies have no regard for life and what these groups will have done, and for them it's all about profit, no doubt. But I'm pretty certain when you look under the depth of some of this, there's complicity of the government as well as these big groups to either gather
Hmm.
information about ISIS at a minimum, but at a maybe more likely, is to actually direct some of the activities of ISIS by financing them. So yeah, so I think there's
Yeah.
the really main message for me from this story is that it shows the hypocrisy of the West and especially France, because France is the government, and Macron, the government who has been talking about Islamic separatism, following the attacks that happened in Bataclan and what happened with that Samuel Paty, the teacher who was
Exactly.
basically, they used all of these incidents to talk about the issue of Islam and the fact that Islam had a crisis, if you remember what Macron said. So
Yeah, yeah,
this
exactly.
smells of pure hypocrisy in that, he's talking about the problem Islam has, but meanwhile, you're here financing and funding extremists, right? So tell me how hypocritical is that of the French government? And the other thing that they're being accused of is that, with Assad doing some of the stuff he's been doing in Syria, sorry, one of the
Hmm.
justifications he gives is that, ISIS still is there. So if the French are funding ISIS and allowing them to work in Syria, because one of the other things is directly ISIS used the cement that they bought from this company. So they're not only were they being financed, but they were also using the cement from this company to create forts. So to actually
Yeah,
create
yeah, yeah.
protection for themselves.
Tunnel, tunnel
So
networks, all
tunnels,
sorts.
exactly, all of that. So this really shows, and I've been saying this for a while, that the West are in need of terrorism and in need of extremism to create a pretext for their actions and their policies. And this is just another clear example of that.
Yeah, yeah. No, no, exactly, bro. Exactly. And to be honest with you, I think Imran's having a bit of problems.
Okay.
But let me just send him a message. Um, so yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, when you're talking about this, the state may be complicit. Well, if the
Mm.
actual intelligence agencies were complicit, and the reality is, can we actually put it past them? Can we put it past them, especially when you have situations where we know that in the past, well, there's been like false flag attacks. People are being
Mhm.
used in order to pursue a particular agenda. It's just
Yeah.
it's shocking. I mean, the normal, no wonder it's not being made public to everyone, because if they can understand that all of what's been happening in the Middle East, even to do with the the expenses in regards to countries, the amount of GDP and all the finances that go towards the budget for the military, all of this
Mhm.
at the expense of other things, they always try to make
Yeah.
out there's a bogeyman, but actually to know that they've actually had direct contacts, they even support people like ISIS and Daesh, who they make out are the worst people on the face of the earth.
Mhm.
This is
Mhm.
something which really goes to show, like you said, the hypocrisy. I think that's the main thing from this story, because
Mhm.
it's very similar to how, obviously we know that America had its own objectives when it went to Iraq and places like this. But you might remember very early on, when the regime was toppled and people were going out looting and all sorts. The only actual places that they were protecting were the places that were linked to the oil,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
It, you know what I mean? So it's the same way that here, what we've got is you've got this company who is now being accused of crimes against humanity because they were supporting, and in fact, as the article said, that, like you said, the cement and stuff was used actually against the coalition powers.
Hmm. Exactly.
So
Uh,
it
yeah.
just stinks of hypocrisy, bro.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. And I read basically there was a Guardian article for a while ago when this came to light, explaining that a senior intelligence agent, he was quoted as saying that this is Lafarge incident is bigger than
Hmm.
just a court case, and it doesn't tell the full story of what was happening. This is bigger than Lafarge. So, like you said, they've got track record of doing this, whether it be many people will know about the Operation Gladio, which was about stay behind organizations in Europe to fight the communists. And then, you had
Exactly.
Gladio B, which was what happened in Iraq and Afghanistan, these nations when with the US war on terror. The ad hoc and kind of false flag events are part of their foreign policy. The covert operations are part of the CIA's basically remit.
Mm.
So we know that this happens, and it's not a. And one thing they do try to do very much, and with 9/11 just passing, one thing that I really saw that they were really pushing is they try to just put it all under the banner of conspiracy theory. And what the way they do this is basically they pull together all the other kind of bogus, which you could call conspiracy theory, and they put it all in with some of the covert operations that had happened. And this is an easy way to really
Yeah,
kind
discredit.
of discredit any information that is true. But there's enough information out there without going into the conspiracy theories that don't have any evidence. There's enough information out there to show that the West, including France, US, UK, UK actually, they're known for their their spies, and historically they've been known for that. And James Bond movies is basically a depiction of the UK's background of spying and espionage and things like this.
Mm.
So it's not you can't put it past them. And this is another incident. There's enough evidence out there to suggest that this happened again, and the France were involved. And it really it's the biggest hypocrisy because of the way France is really, the way they're attacking Islam at the moment and making out that Islam is the biggest threat to the world when here they are actually funding these so-called extremist groups.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. That's a good point. I'm just gonna see if I can bring Imi, and he's jumping
Yeah.
in and out like a ping pong ball. Let's see if he's still around. Imi, you there? No, I don't think he is. I don't think maybe it's his internet connection. But yeah, no, bro. I think what you're saying there is completely valid. And also another angle really is the fact that when it came down to some groups like, for example, ISIS and stuff like this, what I personally believe is that this was seen as a caliphate. It was seen to discredit caliphate, and I believe that had it emerged and then went away within a month, then it would not have been credible. So I believe that they allowed it to stick around for a few years to try to show that this was actually a fully fledged state. It was working. It had certain departments. It had an economy and like any state would. And then they sort of took it out. And you can see that what everyone was talking about was on the black market. For example, ISIS needed funding, and remember they said that ISIS was the richest, I think, militant group in the world. They would say because of the oil and stuff like that. But now we know that a lot of the money would have also been coming from, from sources which would have been unimaginable before. But
Yeah.
what it does do, it sort of it prolongs their state, doesn't it? Because it finances them, it prolongs their state.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, sorry, guys. I got disconnected. If I could just add something, I don't know if you covered this bit, but in the past, I mean, it's no surprise that France has been caught, conspiring with ISIS. Is complicit against human rights violations according to their criteria agenda. But this has been going on for a while. This is the plan of the colonialists, see, because they've always conspired with with organizations that meet their colonial interests. Like, for example, first it was to do with military intervention throughout the world in terms of basing it on human rights violations, and they would go and intervene in different countries. But obviously, they can't use human rights anymore, because if they use human rights, then that's a blatant contradiction on their own states, because obviously they're the first ones to violate human rights. So then they prop up these organizations such as ISIS, who were funded and controlled and created by the intelligence services, and use them in order to gain their interests and intervene in other countries, in particular the Muslim world, and in Africa as well, where there's obviously loads of resources which they can access. And if you look at the history of ISIS itself, the leadership of ISIS, they were held in Iraq in a prison, which was controlled by the Americans.
Camp Booker.
The Camp Booker, yeah, and then they were released. They ended up being the leadership of ISIS, and then who does their agenda, fit with it? Obviously, the Clintons isn't, rather than not the Muslims. The Muslims are the ones who feeling the brunt of the chaos and the anarchy and the killings.
And many of them were former Baathists who, Baathism is a form of secularism. It's not even Islam. So, it makes you really question why these people joined this group. Were they just basically given promises and funding to do this?
The thing is you don't know, because it could well be that these people were actually affected. So what you can do is you go and destroy a place, you kill people's family members, you put them together, you allow them to build a bond, you create the scenario. It doesn't mean you actually gave them a piece of paper with an instruction on it. You create that environment where people will act in a certain way. You understand what I'm trying to say? So
100%.
And that's the thing. But what I would say is, to be honest with you, is from this story is two things I would take away. Would be first, like J.K. you emphasized, was the hypocrisy for Muslims to see this. That we shouldn't be on the defensive. Actually, point out that look what these people are doing, man. But secondly, I think it's a really good point that you said is that when people nowadays they talk about conspiracies, the conspiracy theories. Even over 9/11, there was an article on BBC about people still being conspiracy theories. And the good point you said is that they mix credible theories with theories that are a bit loony, right? To try to discredit all of them. But if you think about it, here we've got actual documents showing that France, through their intelligence agencies, were funding ISIS. Nobody would believe this, but there's evidence, right? Hence why they're probably keeping it under the cover. But the point is that as Muslims, we shouldn't just feel like if something's happening, don't just feel like, actually, I'm not going to speak about it. I'm not going to look into it because it's going to make me look like some conspiracy theorist or someone who's lost the plot. Actually, look at the evidence. Read between the lines, because there's a lot happening out there which you wouldn't imagine of. But when it does happen, rather than saying, if a brother's telling you something like this, rather than saying, bloody hell, these guys are conspiracy theories, actually take on board that, I'm going to look into it. And then do your own research. And actually you find out a lot of the times, it's actually true.
Yeah, definitely. And the main thing that really highlights this for me as well, like if you think of some of the previous historic wars they've had with other nations, a lot of it is down to these covert style operations. So even on the topic of Taliban has obviously been a bit major topic, but there's many interviews and videos out there now explaining how the US funded the Mujahideen to create a situation for the Russians in Afghanistan. So they're very open about it now, but at the time it wasn't open. At the time It felt as though it was a genuine thing. It's only years after, when it doesn't matter anymore, it comes out to the truth comes out, when it doesn't actually matter. And I think that's why it's important to look at history and see if they've been able to do it in the past, they can do it again. But at the same time, what I would say is, when you're looking at this evidence, don't accept everything, because it will be mixed with loony stuff and just outright stuff that don't have any evidence. Look for the things that have the basis and the evidence, and not theory, factual evidence of this stuff. And like I said, I mentioned there's Operation Northwood is a good example. Operation Gladio B. All of these are real examples. They're not theories. They're real examples of what they did. And this is another example just to be added to the list that we need to be aware of and highlight, so that we don't get duped again, because they will continually do these type of things to aid their agenda and aid their interests.
Yeah, no, definitely, man, definitely. All right, cool. Listen, what we're gonna do is let's move on to the next segment, right? And this is really another interesting one. It's quite a bit of a hot topic at the moment. So what we've seen is, you mentioned JK about Taliban stuff. So we can see that since Taliban sort of retook Afghanistan, there's been a lot of talk about women's rights, including how women should dress. There's been discussions on whether Taliban, whether they're going to enforce the niqab or the hijab on the women. You must have seen all the interviews, and through these interviews and through this questioning of whether Taliban are going to enforce the hijab, the niqab, the Islamic dress, what it does is it gives that impression that women covering up in the Islamic manner is actually seen as oppressive, and it's forced on women because the way the questioning is seen as negative, right? So the impression that the media gives is that if it was up to women, they would sort of remove the Islamic dress and dress like the women in the West. So we see that the Islamic dress is portrayed negatively, right? And that's clear. Then on the flip side, we see like Kim Kardashian when she attended that Met Gala in a complete black suit. The only thing you could see was her hair. Now, obviously, there was a bit of the opinions were split, but a lot of people, said this was a fashion statement and this is something mysterious. What's the message? Why is she doing it? People were intrigued, right? But what they weren't seeing it as something which is like oppressive or something which is like being forced, like it is with Islamic dress, right? And even there was a picture that was released. I've seen it on the internet where even Queen Elizabeth, mashallah, she was dressed in what looks like the proper, the jilbab, the khimar, the Islamic dress. Yet it was not seen as backward then, and even now people wouldn't say, look, the Queen at that time was being oppressed or she was being forced to dress like this. It's just crazy how people can form their opinions whenever they want, right? But anyway, what's your thoughts on this?
Mm-hmm. I think you're right. It's been brought to the forefront in recent weeks with all that's happening, and for me, even that comparison with Kim Kardashian, like I totally understand it, and I get the point that's being made about the hypocrisy, but it kind of, I don't know, it doesn't sit well with me even comparing that to the niqab and the Islamic dress because of firstly, the reason she's done it, and secondly, it's still tight fitting and all of that. Like, she's done it for a fashion statement, but it really does hide because that was celebrated. Her dress at the Met Gala was celebrated as, look, a brave move. She's able to kind of hide her face and not have to show her beauty and all of this. And it was celebrated. And it was like the pure hypocrisy. I mean, feels like today hypocrisy seems to be the key word. But the pure hypocrisy in the reaction is mental because, these nations, these Western nations, are the same ones who've been calling for the ban on the hijab and the ban on the niqab. You've got the Prime Minister of the UK calling the niqab a letterboxes and
bank robbers.
Yeah, bank robbers and letterboxes. You've got that recent the recent EU court who ruled in favor of allowing employers to ban the hijab in order to portray a neutral image, whatever that means. So that's just a few examples. There's so many more examples of how they have really clamped down and tried to attack the Islamic dress. And obviously with the Taliban, this has been, what happened there is that there was basically a sit-down demonstration organized in the Kabul University, where about 300 women basically were sat down with their niqabs on. And they were themselves saying that they support the Taliban. They support the fact that the schools and the universities should be gender segregated. And then in reaction to that, there was an online campaign of women of Afghanistan. Apparently, I don't know if it's a majority or not, but there was a subset who were basically sharing their pictures of them in their traditional Afghan clothing, and I think the hashtag "Do Not Touch My Clothes" was shared, and this was really pushed by the Western media, and to no surprise, really. So this environment has been created, but for me, the key point is that the question is, why is it that they have this hatred for the Islamic dress and the niqab, and when a Muslim woman wears this dress, even the hijab, but when it comes to I don't know what she is she a model, Kim Kardashian, when the Queen wears it, when they do it, it's celebrated and it's not seen as backwards or anything like this. And the real reason for that is because their hatred isn't for the Islamic, the actual clothing. Their hatred is for the thought process. Their hatred is for the fact that the Muslim woman has now, making decisions based on what pleases her Lord, right? And not making a decision what pleases herself and pleases her freedom and liberation and all of this. And that's what really hurts them, because the action of Kim Kardashian is her whims and desires. She's not doing it for her Lord. She's doing it to fulfill her whims and desires and make a fashion statement. It's an act of freedom. This can be celebrated, but when it's done for other than that, it's anti-secularism. It's the antithesis of freedom and liberalism. So this is why they hate the Muslim woman for doing this. But when anyone else does it, it's okay because they're not doing it for that reason. And that's why the hijab has become a political symbol, an ideological symbol that really is the opposite of Western values. And that is the reason why you see this hypocrisy, from my perspective.
No, definitely, bro. I want to say, Amy, let me play the comment first, then you go next, yeah? Let me play this comment.
Assalamu alaikum. Just wanted to make a point on that. I think the difference is that with the way Kim Kardashian or when Western people decide, it's a question of the human being has a choice on the subject matter. Therefore, it can't be incorrect. When you start saying to people, me as a human being, I don't want to make the choice. I want the choice to be made for me, i.e., the creator of the worlds, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, has decided what is good or bad for me. The issue isn't the clothing itself. The issue is the concept of the human being knowing what is better for them. And we obviously reject that. So I think that's where I think people differentiate when they say, might want to call it hypocrisy. I think it's more to the fact that they don't want to acknowledge.
Yeah,
100%.
I mean, obviously that is what JK was talking about in regards to it's the fact that connection between the person and the creator, which they hate. But we do have Shaz joined us, and after Imran's made his point, then maybe he can finish what he was saying.
I was just going to say that the fact that they hate the Muslim woman wearing the khimar and jilbab is because the Muslim woman hasn't adopted the concept of freedom from their doctrine.
Exactly.
So in the past, even the French in Algeria in particular, they always wanted to Muslim women in Algeria. They were always attacking the Muslims for the women for why they're wearing this, and even the Europeans, they have a history of undressing their women.
One sec. Guys, there's a bit of background noise. Go on mute if you're not talking, please. Imi, you make a point.
Yeah, I was going to say
that. Was that your point? Sorry, I thought.
I just want to add a bit more that the end of the day is the Muslim women. They're honorable. They're honored. They're considered honor in Islam because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as Shah said, has ordained the dress for them. So they are in an honorable position, and they don't want to lose that honor, even though the colonialists want to undress the Muslim women how their women dress it. But this is an order from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And also the other thing I want to mention is that when the Muslims, when the non-Muslims talk about the Muslim women covering with the khimar and jalbab, they say that the Muslim women, they're forced, but they're not forced. The Muslim woman wears it because she wants to please her creator, not a human being. Because the women in the West, they follow marketing, fashion trends, all designed by men. So it's the Muslim woman that is more liberated than the secular, the woman under capitalism.
Yeah, no, exactly, bro, exactly. And to be honest with you, I think there's also the issue to do with the fact that what they're trying to do is, when they talk about extremism, I think they link this extremism to any choice that you make based on on Islam is extremism. And I came across this piece by Raquel in Syria. I'm sure JK, that's Brother Tox's wife, Raquel.
Yeah, that's his wife. Yeah.
And she had a bit where and the title was the real reason Shamima Begum removed her hijab. And what she was talking about, and I remember doing a video something similar on this, and what she was saying is, because you might remember when Shamima Begum was interviewed, and there was a difference in her appearance. She was wearing a cap. She was no longer wearing a hijab and jilbab. She also, hugged the reporter and stuff like you thought, well, actually, wait, this is a bit of strange behavior, right? But what Raquel was saying, Sister Raquel was saying, is that she was saying that what we're seeing here is the fact that she removed, for that second interview, she removed her, the jilbab and the khimar and stuff, the hijab, is because what they're doing is they're equating hijab with extremism. Okay, so what she was saying is that there's no doubt that Shamima and whoever is coaching her felt she had to remove any trace of Islamic appearance to be accepted, gain trust, and maximize on sympathy. So you understand? So just think about it now. It was subtle, but can you? I don't know if you guys picked up on this, but I did straight away when I seen that interview with Shamima Begum, and she looked different. Why? Because now it's like, I want to come back to the UK. Look, I look similar to the people there, accept me. Whilst before, it was like, actually, she probably belongs in Syria, not in Britain. You understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. Like the narrative they're really pushing is that Shamima Begum is a reformed character. She's no longer extreme. And then what comes with that is, look, I've taken off my hijab. I'm more westernized. I don't mind hugging strange men. So what does that really tell you? That puts into the same bracket of extremism your Islamic dress, your basically your haya, your modesty. And look, she's being played. I'm not pointing fingers at her.
No, neither am I.
She's being played. But you're absolutely right. This is the message that they're trying to push.
Just wanted to jump in there for a second, if that's possible.
Yeah, bro, go for it. Just keep the background noise down,
yeah? Yeah, it is. But I don't know what's causing the problem, because it's only me in this room. So
cool. Go for it.
Yeah, so I think it's actually something probably even more. Fundamentally, it's more dangerous. But at its most basic level and core level, I think it really is an attack on the Aqidah. And the reason why it's an attack on the Aqidah is basically what it's trying to say is the woman has a choice whether she wants to do it or doesn't want to do it. It's not something imposed on her by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and neither should she think that. She should think, actually, I can make these changes whenever I want to. So the classic case here is the Shamima Begum one is, look, first of all, you had a girl or a woman wearing it, then now she's decided to not wear it. So what happens later on? Well, today I decided not to drink alcohol. Tomorrow I will decide to drink alcohol. So I think it's a much more deep-rooted, concerted effort by the kuffar of what it's attacking. Because remember, this is one of the most significant rules for a woman to go outside leaving the house when she's in a public arena. So if you can attack and change the mindset of this particular law, what's stopping you changing the other ones? What's stopping you changing the rules on how you mix with other people, free mixing, alcohol drinking, all of this, whether or not a person is married or unmarried. You start attacking all of these. That's why I think it's much more deep rooted than just a question of, laws relating to a woman's dress code. I think it's really attacking the mindset of the Muslim to think, you know what, you can pick and choose, adopt, drop the laws whenever you feel like it. Hey, what's stopping you? Look, here's a person, she was wearing hijab a month ago. Now she doesn't want to wear it. Yeah, it's completely fine. Same thing. Or this week the person didn't go out clubbing or didn't drink alcohol. Next week he can do it. What's wrong with that? It's okay. It's acceptable. So I think it's a lot more dangerous. A lot more dangerous. And people shouldn't just be thinking that it's just related to the concept of clothing or haya or anything like that. I think it's a lot more dangerous in the terms of you can pick and choose when you want, however you want. And that's where I was trying to highlight before. And obviously, because the topic's so hot, I had to jump in and join in as well, Maj.
No, of course. Jazakallah for your contribution, bro. I think JK wants to make a point.
Yeah, to be fair, I'm glad you joined, because I think you made a top point there that it's a fundamental thought issue here. It's not merely this topic. It's the thought process of one who makes a decision based on their choice and freedom versus one who makes their choice based on their Islamic Aqidah of what's halal and haram. And actually, here we're talking about one who takes the hijab off, but actually this problem also exists within those, not many, but there's a few influencers out there. This problem exists with those who even don the hijab, who come out with messages such as my hijab, my choice. And why this is so dangerous is that the message they really portray here is that we are wearing the hijab because it's my freedom of choice to wear the hijab. In the same way, you don't have to wear the hijab, or you can walk around half naked because it's your choice to walk around half naked. And why this is dangerous is that this isn't the Islamic basis of the hijab and any other rule in Islam. The basis of following a rule in Islam is that Allah has obliged us to follow that rule, and we follow that rule on the basis of being obedient towards Allah and pleasing Allah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I think, I don't know whether you know, but there's many influencers out there that really push this message, and why we, an advice to my sisters, and many do have this understanding, but those who don't need to really understand, why is it that you wear the hijab? Why is it that you follow the Islamic rules, including the brothers? We follow it on the basis that Allah has ordered it, not because it's your choice to follow those rules. Because yes, we have free will. Don't get me wrong. No one's forced to do anything. We have free will, but we will be accountable for it based on what Allah has allowed and what Allah has forbidden.
But can you also see that, JK, that how difficult it is for the sisters? Because
100%,
because here they are really linking like just the appearance, linking it to extremism, terrorism, being oppressed and stuff like that. And it's difficult, man. And at the end of the day, it's may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make the sisters steadfast on this, because and like Shaz said, that it comes back from your aqidah, is that why are you doing it? You're doing it for the sake of it. Doesn't matter. You're not here to please creation. You want to please the creator. But it's easy for me to say that. But nevertheless, you can see the atmosphere is becoming toxic, and that's why I think people say that Muslim women are easy targets, and you can easily see why. Is because even just their dress. But the thing is, if the West, if they disagree with the way Muslim dress, I don't have a problem with that, because their viewpoint in life is different. What would be good and what would be sincere and what would be honest is to actually come to the table and discuss this in an intellectual manner, whose basis is correct, whose foundation is correct, whose aqidah is correct, right? And then if people are disagreeing, then fair enough, they want to leave it at that. But the styles that are used to try to link things like this to terrorism and extremism, that's definitely insincerity. You know what I mean?
Yeah, go on, sorry.
I was going to say, you're never going to get that. Shall I tell you why? Because what you just mentioned there, bro, you can explain that concept to the majority of the Muslim, majority of the female species, and such is Islam that it protects the woman, that it will always, every single woman will agree with what you've got to say when you break it down to its most fundamental core. I.e., you woman, you're not seen as meat. You're not seen as an object. You're seen as honor, dignity, respect. We love to honor our women. We love to honor our mothers, our daughters, our sisters. Which woman's gonna turn around and say to you, "I don't want any of that. I don't believe in any of that"? So when you're saying that, when you're talking about it being an open debate and discuss, they never want to even get to that point, because the fact is, when you mention that to any woman, they will say, yeah. If you just next time, even just question, not even bring Islam into it, just ask as a straw poll to someone, non-Muslim, colleague at work or anything like that, would you be happy if someone honored you, respected you, loved you, cared for you, and valued who you were as the same level as your own, as your daughters or your sisters? Ask them yes or no. I guarantee you the answer is going to be yes, because such is human nature, that human beings, they want to be loved, they want to be cared, they want to be protected. These are fundamental parts Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made in a human's nature. So if all of these are something which Allah has told a man to do on the behalf of a woman, who's going to say no to that? Who's going to say no to that? So I think it's like I said. Go on. Sorry, Imran, go on.
Yeah, sorry, Jazakallah khair for that. That's a top points, man. It's you have to give massive respect to the women for standing, being steadfast on the deen, for wearing, the correct garments, the kamara and jilbab, because like you're saying, in this society it is becoming more and more tough, but we see the Muslim women actually sticking to their to their haya, to their honor. And the one question I ask the non-Muslims is, you define to me what honor is, because these people, they struggle to define what honor is. If they had a definite an understanding of what honor is, they wouldn't be doing to their women what they actually do to them. And it's actually, I was looking at some statistics, and last year, these are official cases, where 1.6 million female victims of domestic abuse in England and Wales, 618,000 victims of sexual assault, 892,000 female victims of stalking. So when you have the woman who is seen as an object to satisfy the desires and nothing else, you're going to get these problems. The reason, so we have to be very, very, work hard in order to make our women remain as honorable and dress in the correct way. But you know what is I think the other thing is that the media, when these isolated incidents happen in their society, they keep it as isolated, as if it's not a bigger problem. But when these cases happen in a Muslim world, they say that this is such and such organization, or this is due to the Muslims, or this is due to Islam. So they target the whole religion based upon that, as if Islam got to do something with it. But the Islamic viewpoint towards a woman is that she's a mother, a daughter, a sister, and a wife who has to be protected, like you're saying, and has honor. And Allah has obliged us to protect them at all costs.
Yeah.
And just to jump in with another point, and like you brothers have said, I remember when many years ago, I went to a lecture, and one of the brothers gave a fantastic talk on the honor and the dignity of a woman. But one of the points that he actually made is that he said, the kuffar or kufr, they deliberately want to attack the woman more because of the points that Imran just made, that they are a mother, so therefore who raises the children? It's the mother, right? And she is a sister, so obviously again, she is a daughter. So these concepts is, if you can corrupt their women. So basically what he was saying is that he's heard from certain kuffar that it was that if you can corrupt their women, you will corrupt the next generation of children from them. And again, it's a knock-on effect. You corrupt that set of children, then why is it that now we're here in our lifetimes, we never ever even thought that we would even hear that somebody that or through somebody else, or you're hearing stories, somebody's left Islam, and they didn't have a great upbringing, or their mother didn't pay much attention to them, or she was corrupted by that mindset of having thoughts of these freedoms and these liberties. And wallahi al-azim, I've heard people say, I'm going to give my children, I'm not going to be so strict, I'm going to be a lot more liberal with my children. And the chickens have come home to roost now because their children are basically uncontrollable. They can't control them. There's no such thing as respecting what your parents' decision is, because they've been corrupted by the mindset of the kuffar that they can decide what is right and wrong for them. And this is what I was trying to say earlier on. As a Muslim, basically when we're making acknowledgement and statement to say, all us brothers and sisters, I'm not clever enough to know what's good for me, and the Creator, I will let the Creator decide on my behalf. What is good, bad, whatever, that's fine. I can accept that. The kuffar don't acknowledge or can't accept that. How can another human being do that? How could you allow someone else to do that? They can't accept that. And that's the bit where they can't get their heads around, I think. And that's why they're so forceful of trying to convince Muslims that, you got it wrong. You've got a mind. You should be able to let your mind decide what is right or wrong for you. But when we turn around and say, no, we don't care about that, I reject that. I'd rather let Allah decide for me what's right or wrong. And I'm happy and I'm content with that. They can't get that around their heads.
Yeah, they hate. That's what they hate, and that's the point I was making at the start. That it's not the clothing, because others have worn clothing like that. Nuns wear clothing like that. It's not that. What they hate is the thought process. The thought process that is against how they think. And like you said, and even Brother Imran, I think it's really important for us to educate our daughters, our women folk, about this issue and come at it from the right angle because there's a lot of culture that comes with it as well. There's cultural practices that happen and why many might even wear it. But actually, it's important that we educate why the woman, as well as other rules in Islam, why we follow rules in Islam, because of this very real attack on the Islamic woman and her dress code. And as I think one of the brothers were making, is that we should really be on the offensive. That they use the hijab and the topic of hijab to say that Islam is oppressive towards women, but the reality is that the unprecedented levels of rape and sexual assault has occurred on their watch. It's not under Islam that's happened. It's occurred under their watch of the secular domination and capitalism, where you have the objectification of women through Hollywood, Bollywood,
It's crazy,
and the
man. It's
pornography
crazy.
industry. It's crazy. It happened on their watch. So, like Brother Imran was saying, that we need to really push for what is the Islamic thought towards women, the fact that we have this respect and honor towards women historically, many examples, and the way we judge a woman is not based on how they look and how they dress, but actually on their level of thought and their intellect and their their taqwa, really. And that's how we judge a woman, not based on how they look and not based on them being objects for the eyes of men to kind of lust over. And this is the really important point.
I think that the main thing really, JK, comes down to the fact that as Muslims, it's important that we are connected to our deen. It's important
100%.
that our connection between us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is strong within our families. It's important that we educate ourselves on the deen, because first and foremost, that will give us the tools to be convinced that what we believe in is indeed correct. It's not something that's just been inherited from our parents, right? First point. And then secondly is the fact that when you are in a situation where might is right nowadays. I mean, the capitalism that's dominating the world, everything they say goes. So they say this is right and that's wrong, and everyone's got to go with it. But to be able to stand up to that, to be able to not go into your shell, to be able to say, listen, actually, this is what Islam says. Like Imi was saying, like Shaz was saying, we view the woman like this, and explain this, and in a way where you do with confidence. You're not doing it in a reactionary way. You're not doing it in a defeatist way. And I think the lesson to sort of take for this, for all of us and everyone listening, is the fact that we can only do that if we strengthen our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I think that's the key really for this point.
Alhamdulillah, just to add on what you said, is like you said, the amount of respect that we have for our sisters and mothers and aunties and daughters and nieces. This is something which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala encourages us to do. And if you are seen to be doing that amongst your family, your friends, and any other and just women in general, if you see that, wallahi, our children, our sons will emulate and do the same. They will emulate and do the same. So this is why, over the course of a century, if you want to look over the last 100 years or 150 years, if you look at it from a historical point of view, even in Britain, that yes, people did have that level of respect within their society. They were respectful towards their elders. They were respectful to women. They were respectful to people's daughters, etc. But this has eroded over time, and that erosion, like I said, it doesn't just happen overnight. It happens over time, and this is the similar problem that you will get, that when you live in a society that encourages that you use your mindset to determine what is right or wrong, then you're going to get that. You're going to get that. So, and also, just to finish on that, I have a huge amount of admiration for our sisters who do wear the hijab and jilbab, because really, when you look at it from a certain point of view, this is a political statement. This is a political statement to say, look, I reject what you want me to be. I reject what you want me to be. This is who I am. and it is a political statement. And that's another thing that they hate. And as JK's mate, they despise these kind of mindset. They despise a Muslim woman having that kind of mindset.
Yeah. No, 100%, man, 100%. And I think that's the main bit. So again, like I said, it comes down to the fact that you're confident that you want to live your life in a certain way, even though it may go against what everyone else says. You're comfortable, to do that, confident to do that, and this comes through knowledge, and it comes through really understanding and conviction. And that's why, even if sisters are listening to this, or anyone listening to this who probably is going through a similar journey where maybe as a Muslim woman, that you have to be dressed in a certain manner, but there's problems and stuff like that. Strengthen your relation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because that's the only way you can overcome this toxic environment and be confident to walk with your head high, knowing that you're not here to please the creation, you're here to please the creator. Without that connection, that special connection with you and your Lord, that's very difficult to do. Guys, it's getting on a bit. What I want to do is sort of I'm going to play this one comment. There's a comment come in, and inshallah, then we'll probably get your final thoughts, and then we'll bring it to a close. Yeah, let me just play this comment or question.
Yes, guys, I've been searching on this app. Yeah, I'm good to listen to some knowledge. But when you talk about the hijab, it doesn't determine the person, innit? You know what I mean? So you cannot judge someone by wearing the hijab sometimes, you know what I mean? Because under that hijab, it could be evil ways of doing things, you know what I mean? But blessed to you all. Yeah, man, good talk.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And that's a good point. The thing is, you're right. There could be someone who's dressed in a certain way and they're not a good person. And there's someone who may not be dressed in an Islamic way who probably, as a personality, they have a good one. But you have to disconnect the topic here. As a Muslim, I mean, I don't know if you're a Muslim or not, but as a Muslim, you have certain rules and you have to abide by them. So a Muslim woman has to dress in a certain way when she leaves the house in the public domain, and that's not really got anything to do with her personality as such. So no one is doubting anyone's personality. No one is saying that if a Muslim woman isn't dressed in the Islamic way, she's a bad person. No one is saying that. It just goes down to understanding the rules. And to be honest with you, right now as well, I'm sure the guys will agree as well that what we've seen over time is things like the hijab and stuff like this has become fluid. Whilst before it was very clear what the Islamic dress was, now it's you can even argue that it's become fashionable. So things have changed, and the way you wear it and the style you wear it, and these things have sort of changed. So all of this environment is there to change it from being a political statement, like Shaz said, like I'm going to keep myself private only for those people to see who are allowed to see, and keep myself private for my Lord. Now it's become, it's a bit of a fashion statement. So they've sort of changed it and made it fluid over time. But nevertheless, what it boils down to is the fact that it's in the same way a Muslim has to pray Salah, a Muslim has to fast in Ramadan, a Muslim has to make Hajj if he is capable of doing. In the same way, a Muslim woman has to dress in a certain way when she is in the public domain, and it doesn't really concern the issue of if the person is a good person or a bad person. It's just a rule that has to be followed. I'm not sure if you guys want to add anything to that, brothers. If not, then give me your final thoughts and we can sort of bring this to a close. JK, you want to add something?
No, I agree. I agree with that. But in terms of final thoughts, I think I was just building on what you said there about, at this time and this environment, no doubt it's very difficult for every Muslim, but especially our Muslim women, to really kind of practice Islam, you can say, especially because they actually have a visible version of Islam. I mean, it's not just the thought; they're actually portraying it in their dress as well. And I think for me, a key kind of advice, not just to women but even to the brothers, is that in Islamic history and the time of the Prophet ﷺ, those who embraced Islam first, in Mecca and those who fought in Badr had a greater status than those who embraced Islam afterwards and after Fath Mecca when things became a bit easier. And my message really is here is that, look, the situation isn't easy now. It's very difficult. But by the same level, the reward is also greater. And, you know, in the same way that those who came to Islam later had regrets of why they didn't come to Islam first, we can take a lesson from that in this situation, if we come to Allah first and we return to Allah and fulfill His commands, including the hijab and the khimar and the jilbab, if we in this difficult situation and environment, if we are the forerunners in this action, our reward will also be greater. So my advice is to brothers and sisters, not just the hijab, but every rule in Islam, and this mission that we have in order to bring Islam back to the realm of life, we need to jump on it now if we want to gain the greatest reward. Because the deen of Islam will always be a success and will always be given victory by Allah. But the situation is now that we want to be front runners and forerunners and to gain the most reward, even though it's going to be difficult, let's do it now. That would be my advice, really.
Jazakallah for that, bro. Jazakallah. Any of you other guys want to add anything to that? Imi, your final thoughts?
Yeah, I just want to add that obviously there'll be goodness within the Ummah until the Day of Judgment. So like you said, even those sisters who are not covering at the moment, you know, it's an obligation, you know, ordained by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in order to elevate the status of the woman. If I could just give one example which stayed with me since I was studying out of town. I attended a lecture once, and there was a sister. She would wear jeans and t-shirts, you know, proper westernized clothing. There was a speaker that came to give a talk, and he gave an example of how something which is of value, is precious, of beauty, is always difficult to get to. It's hidden in some sort of trove or, you know, treasure chest or in an oyster or something deep below the ocean, and you have to actually try. And anything that's precious, Allah has actually preserved it. It's difficult to obtain. Yeah, in the same way, the woman, her honor, is something which is precious. And this is, he gave good examples. And the next day, wallahi, this sister came in a himar jalbab. She threw away the Western clothing, t-shirts and jeans, and she came in a himar jalbab. And this is obviously, you know, how we want the Muslim women. So we shouldn't also be afraid that what people are going to think. At the end of the day, you're here to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not another human being.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm just gonna finish this on the following, to be honest with you. And just recently, I've just been contemplating. So I'm just gonna mention this hadith, and it's not specifically to do with women or anything like that. It's just generally in relation to us being here. So Rasulullah ﷺ said once, he goes, me in this dunya, or me, he goes, I look at this as I'm a person who's traveling a journey. There's a tree. I've sat down on this tree. I've taken a moment's rest. I've got up and I've continued my journey. And they said, what was the meaning of that? He said, the tree was my life on this earth. So this dunya is temporary. And as JK said, the things of wanting what we want, we know, we keep saying, or a lot of people say, it's akhirah, it's akhirah, it's akhirah. But I can't emphasize enough how as parents, or as brothers, or as sisters, or as mothers, that we need to educate and encourage our children and in our dawah that this dunya is temporary. We are only here for a temporary period of time. And as JK has pointed out, earning that reward is the real objective for, i.e., getting to the next life. So all matters here on this dunya are temporary, and we should be encouraging children and people around us to be able to have that level of thinking that, you know, we are only here for a short time. Whereas the kuffar, they try and make this their akhirah. This is their akhirah. You know, this is what they live for. This is their objective. Whereas for us, it's not. So the kind of things that they want us to go and do, you know, they're irrelevant. They're not going to give us any satisfaction. You know, we should realize and acknowledge that we're only here for a short period of time.
Yeah, no, Definitely, bro. Definitely. Jazakallah for those words of wisdom, something we should all reflect upon ourselves and listeners as well. But yeah, I mean, you might have missed the bit at the start where I was talking about just going to 2 janazas yesterday and today. So really, it's a sign that nothing lasts. Yeah, nothing lasts, and the choices you make now will have huge implications on what happens next. But okay, brothers, inshallah, going to bring this to a close. Jazakallah khair to you all
Barakallah feek.
for joining and sharing your wisdom. Jazakallah to all the people listening and to those who sent any questions and comments. Unfortunately, there's a brother at the beginning who wanted to ask a question and he didn't sort of come back. But inshallah, we can probably address him another time. But yeah, guys, Jazakallah khair, and as always, inshallah ta'ala, we'll see you guys on the next one. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Wa alaikum assalam
wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Respect to Allah.